Hello and welcome to another May Arts video. My name's Britta Spiderski and today I'll be playing with some Luminart and Creative Imaginations goodies for our Teaming Up week with Creative Imaginations. And I'm excited to be using some of this resist paper called Paint It with Luminart from Mara Johnson. And it's from Creative Imaginations and it's this really pretty, almost like doily pattern. And all of this embossing, or this resist material, will resist the Twinkling H2Os that we're going to put on top of it. And I've just cut out 4 pieces that are 4 inches by 5 1/4, and these will be really fun to play with. So I just cut out 4 so that I have extra pieces to play with. And I'm going to be using these Twinkling H2Os, which are basically watercolors that have some shine to them. So they're completely dry, and then when you add water, just like the pigments that we used to use in kindergarten, they become wet and you can work with them, and once they dry they're super shiny and super vibrant. So they're really fun. I'm working with 2 color sets today. I have Think Pink and Basic Rainbow, and I'll be using colors from both of those sets. So I really like this color called Good News Green. It's almost like a teal color. And I'm just going to grab a paintbrush, and I'm going to work with kind of a big paintbrush because I want this to be nice and fluid. And I'm going to spray my craft sheet here, this is from Ranger, with some water, and this will just give me a nice little puddle to work with. And then after I get my brush wet, you just rub it onto your Twinkling H2Os and then get them going. And then you can paint right over your sheet. And the more you rub the Twinkling H2Os, the more pigment comes out on your brush. And so you can just paint over this whole thing. You could even use your fingers if you really wanted to. And just go over this whole thing and really let that resist shine. So you can get a really subtle look with lots of water, or you can get a more vibrant look with lots of the Twinkling H2Os. So I'm just going to go over this whole little piece here with this color. So I've done 2 of these backgrounds, and it's using the same color, the Good News Green, and this one I used a lot of water on, and this one I used just a little bit of water on, and you can see that it's more vivid. And then I just took my rag, this is just an old t-shirt, that's a little bit damp, and wiped over the top of it once it started drying, and that really cleaned up the resist and let it really pop. So that's how you can do it with just one color. Now you can also do really fun things with mixing a few colors. So I'm going to take a light pink called Dreams Bloom and a really dark vivid pink called Hopeful Honeysuckle, and then even throw in some red, which is Hot Cinnamon. And so I'm going to open all of these up and clean out my brush just by cleaning it on my little rag here. You can even spray it with some water if you wish. And now I'm going to get my paper wet just so it'll accept the water a little bit, or the ink a little bit better. And then get my mat wet with some more water. I'm even going to spray the Twinkling H2Os themselves just to really get them started. And then I'm going to start with the lightest color and then just paint in parts of the paper with this lightest color. Now that I have some of that lighter color down, I'm going to go in with this darker color and really get that going, and then paint in other areas of the paper. And then I can go in with this even darker color and add some more. And this will really make it pop. And so you can even keep cleaning out your brush, and you can go back with more water and even go back to the light pink and add in some more light pink just to bring everything together really well. So any areas that have kind of a harsh line, you can go back and just keep filling in until it looks really how you want it to. So you have this really fun kind of multicolor background, and it looks really great. And even because we didn't use way too much water on this, you can even go back now and take off some of this extra color, and it will come off of the resist. So it even makes the resist pop out even more, which is really fun. And then you can set aside this to dry. And then we're going to do one more background. And then for this one, we're going to create a nice vintage gold color. So I just spritzed it a couple times in here, and I'm going to use my brush to really get the color going. And the stiffer the brush you use, the better it breaks down kind of the protective coating that the watercolor has when you first start using it. So you might want to use a stiffer brush to start out. And then you can just paint over with this beautiful gold color, and because it's reflective, instead of just coming off yellow, it comes off as a really kind of antique gold or brass color. So it's really pretty, and you can just go over this and get the desired effect that you want. And you can even add a little bit of inking to the edges, and I think I'll probably add a little bit of distress ink to the edges just to give it a nice antique finish. So as you can see here, these resist papers really do all of the work for you. This is super easy and pretty foolproof. You can't go wrong mixing these colors, and they'll always be pretty and shiny. So even if it's not your favorite color, I'm sure the person that you're giving your card to will just love it. So I'm just going to let these dry for a couple minutes. They dry very quickly because we don't really use too much water when we use watercolors. So I'll be back in a second to put together a card. Also, while my cards are drying, I wanted to dye some of this ribbon. And I'm just going to cut off a piece of it. That's only the width of my card. And this is May Arts 3615810. And it's this beautiful lace. And what you can do is spray your, in this case I'm going to use this sunflower color because I want my ribbon to be gold. And you can just paint right over it and just kind of pounce on the color, and it will absorb into the fibers. So you have to be a little bit patient with it because the ink isn't, or the paint isn't really meant to go into this fiber, but you can really pounce it in there and even spray a little bit of water on it, and it'll get saturated. And as soon as you have that saturation, it will dry just beautifully into this beautiful gold color with lots of shine. So now just let this dry while your card fronts are drying, and it should be ready to use in just a few minutes. Alright, so I'm back after my backgrounds have dried, and I added, this is the gold one by the way, I added some vintage photo and tea-dye distress ink to the edges, and look how well that those Twinkling H2Os took the ink. I think it's a really pretty look. But I think my favorite of all the backgrounds is this one that I did with lots of water and the tealish Twinkling H2Os. So I'm going to make a card out of this one. So I'm just going to use my ATG and adhere this to my background, which this cardstock is from Hero Arts, by the way. And I'm just going to use lots of adhesive around the edge because it's still a little bit damp. So I want to make sure that any warping that occurs gets minimized by adhering this to the card. So you can see we have it adhered to the card now. And it's this nice pretty subtle look. And then I have this lace that I've colored with the watercolors. And I added a little bit of vintage photo and tea-dye distress ink to this as well, because it was still a little bit too bright and bold for me. So I added that, and now I can adhere this down. I'm going to use some multi-matte medium to adhere this down, and this will dry nice and matte, so you will hardly be able to see it. But this will just help hold my lace down without me having to worry about the adhesive showing through or trying to get it so that it sticks all the way across the card without showing. So although you can kind of see it now, once this dries it's going to be super stuck down and it will not even show. So I'm actually just adding a little bit to the edges here, and then when this dries I'll be able to cut it off and it will stay perfectly in place and will not fray. And now I'll be putting together my sentiment using some of the die cuts from the same line, the Mara Johnson Creative Imaginations Luminart line. And they come with a bajillion pieces. I think it's 59, and this whole sheet. And I'm going to use this one. It's this cute little oval. And I'm going to stamp this Thoughts of You stamp on this is from Paper Smooches, their Word Up set. And I've cut out this frame with the framelits dies from Sizzix, and I'm going to ink the edges with some Vintage Photo Distress ink. And then I'm also going to ink the edges of this die cut. Even though there's a black outline, it could still use a little bit of distressing, I think. So that gives it a nice little glow. And then we're ready to adhere everything down to our card. So I'm going to use some foam adhesive for this. And this paper, by the way, is from Creative Imaginations, the same line that the painting paper was from. This just doesn't have a resist on it. And this back is this really cool white on black text, or cream on black text. So that'd be really fun to use on a card. I'll have to plan a card around that. And then I'll place my oval just slightly above center here. And then I think all that we're needing is a few pearls, and I want to make them kind of this vintagey brown color. So I'm going to use a brown marker, this E37 Sepia Copic marker, and color them in. And then I'll give them a nice bronze color that goes perfectly with the Vintage Photo ink. And then I can cut them apart and place them on my card. And since we use that multi-matte medium to hold the edges down, you don't even need to worry about sealing those off or anything. They're already good to go. And you can't see the adhesive at all, by the way. If you look, if my camera focuses. There we go. So, here's a picture of the finished card. And here's a close-up. Thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed this fun with May Arts and Creative Imaginations, and I will catch you again next time on another video tutorial.